Hello everyone and welcome to a post-match reaction from Driving Mall. Just going to see whether I'm going to be joined by Steve or if it's going to be on my own.
Yeah, I'm in the hot springs on Great Barrier Island, and I've been to a whole bunch of places all around Auckland. And I made some videos.
We actually had the win by the All Blacks against Argentina, but Argentina definitely were putting up a good fight, especially in the first half. There was that early try, and where they basically went close to the ruck, offload a couple of times, and had the players there going through, which really cut through the All Blacks, and that was an impressive try. And then after that, what we saw from the Argentina was that they varied it quite well. They were putting it wide. They were happy to also keep it tight, and they were changing the width and changing which types of players, whether it was the forwards or the backs, that were running with the ball, and that really did cause the All Blacks some concerns. The All Blacks obviously came back and were also, when they got hold of the ball, were also able to cause enough trouble with for Argentina and keep themselves in the game. But for that first half, especially, Argentina were causing the All Blacks all sorts of troubles. And then also early on in the second half, they did the same sort of thing. I looked at the stats late on in the game, and it felt like Argentina hadn't touched the ball, hadn't been out of their half for ages, and yet the stats still had them having at least 50-50, if not higher, both in possession and territory, even in the second half. So it really was a late one on where the All Blacks really took control. It was a bench game, and it's one of the things we've been talking about the All Blacks for quite some time now, is that they outlast the opposition, and that bench is so much more quality that's where they cause and outscore the opposition, and that happened again tonight. This really wasn't a 30-40 point loss for the Pumas against any other side. They would just not have lost. It would not have been that big a gap. They put in a really good performance for the first 50, 60 minutes. But what we saw was that the All Blacks pulled their bench and used their bench early on to get the extra urgency, to get the extra attack, and really up the tempo, closed down the defence, and then just took the game away. And it was a sudden 2 or 3 tries within a few minutes that really just opened the gap, and it was suddenly all over. This was a real clinical and performance by the All Blacks coaches more than anyone else, pulling off players like Dan Coles, like Aaron Smith, early key players who would say are the best in their position in the world, were getting pulled early on for the counterparts, because that the player coming off the bench was providing more urgency and taking it through. And that's really what we saw. The All Blacks were put under pressure. They didn't panic. There were a couple of moments where you thought where they were a little bit frazzled in a different way than last week, 2 weeks ago against Australia, where they were definitely shook up by the physicality and the niggle. This time they were shaken up by the ability of Argentina to spread, retain the ball, have the continuity of possession, and attack them in different areas of the pitch. Wasn't just spun wide, it wasn't just played tight, it was mixed up nicely. And that when the opportunities were there, the Pumas were able to take them. There really weren't that many points left out on the pitch. We're talking about a game that was, where the scoring was over a point a minute. This was it was high class stuff, especially in the first half. The second half, things definitely got a bit more ragged at times. We used to see some drop balls. We did see some players getting tired, and we weren't seeing quite the execution, especially from Argentina. Once the All Blacks stepped up that urgency in defence, but and also just the ability to retain the ball and just never give Argentina the continuity and the chance to come back in that second half. And that's really what I think we saw. What's going to be interesting is the next game. We've also got the Wallabies versus the Springboks. What are we going to see from the Wallabies? Because against this Pumas side, they are going to be in danger at home. If they haven't stepped up their performance over the last couple of that we've seen so far this season from them, we could really see the Pumas being favourites going into the game next weekend. So that's the next game is actually the more interesting and more intriguing one of this weekend. So I'll be on that one. Follow and give me comments on Twitter. I'll be back on here after that game as well. So let's have a chat about and how that game goes. But this one, there was none of the players really had a shocker or even were down. It was great to see Julian Surveyor back to his best. It's a couple of great breaks and also skipping through for that try. He was definitely back to his best. Ryan Crotty, who people have been down on quite a bit, solid, and then suddenly steps up and gets a couple of tries as well. So it was good to see those players Crotty coming back from his concussion. Julian Surveyor showing his good form for the first time this season. And obviously we had Bowden Barrett doing his normal dancing thing as well. A great game of rugby, and if you're watching this on replay thinking, hey, should I go back and watch it? Yes, definitely do, especially the first half. There were some crackers going on there. So that's it from me for now. I'd say I'll be back on Twitter for the Wallabies versus Springboks, and also join me for live reaction after that game.